the civilian employees of the U.S. Air Force. They're not in the military, yet they take the same oath. They don't wear the uniform, but they stand shoulder to shoulder with those who do. They're patriotic, hard-working Americans. They are the everyday heroes of Air Force civilian service. Forces joined.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Aim Higher, episode 46, Shared Mission. My name is Sheryl Cherry, Marketing and Brand Management Specialist with Air Force Civilian Service. I'm honored to be your host tonight. This evening, we're focusing on a group whose contributions to the Air Force mission are felt every day, but often behind the scenes, the spouses of our active duty service members. Military spouses serve alongside our airmen and guardians in ways that don't always come with a uniform or a title. They are the steady support system behind every permanent change of station, every deployment, every late night, and every new assignment. They help hold military families together through constant change, uncertainty, and sacrifice. Yet, those same moves that support the mission can create significant challenges for military spouses pursuing careers of their own. Just as they're becoming established in a role, building professional relationships, and gaining momentum in their careers, many military spouses are asked to pack up, relocate, and start all over again. Sometimes they arrive at their next duty station only to discover that positions matching their skills, education, or experience simply aren't available. Others find themselves rebuilding professional networks from scratch every few years. And that's unfortunate because military spouses represent one of the most resilient, adaptable, and highly educated talent pools anywhere in the workforce. The Department of the Air Force recognizes the tremendous value military spouses bring to the mission, to their communities, and to the workplace. That's why it has launched the Global Military Spouse Connection Initiative. It is an effort designed to help military spouses maintain career continuity, connect with meaningful opportunities, and continue growing professionally, no matter where military life takes them. Joining us this evening are three outstanding guests who will help us explore both the challenges military spouses face and the opportunities this initiative is creating. We'll hear from Rick Jones, the Program Manager for the Global Military Spouse Connection Initiative, along with Samantha Dugan and Paul Davis, two military spouses who have experienced firsthand the unique career challenges and the opportunities that come with military life. Together, they'll share their experiences, discuss how the program works, and explain how Air Force Civilian Service is helping military spouses stay connected to rewarding careers while continuing to support the mission. If you have any questions for our panelists, we'd love to hear from you. Simply enter them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll answer as many as we can during today's session. And if you'd like to learn more about Air Force Civilian Service and the opportunities available to military spouses, visit us anytime at afciviliancareers.com. Without further ado, let's meet our guests. Rick, start us off. Tell us about yourself, your role with Air Force Civilian Service, and what led you to become involved with the Global Military Spouse Connection Initiative. Rick?
Thank you, Sheryl. Professionally, my background is that I'm a retired Air Force active duty recruiter. I recruited for roughly over 16 years. I retired in 2021. I worked for the VA for a couple years as an administration specialist. I've been here at Air Force Civilian Service for roughly 3.5 to 4 years. I was a talent acquisition consultant, which is a recruiter here. Now I'm a program analyst, specifically dealing with the Global Military Spouse Connection. What this initiative is really trying to do is reduce the unemployment rate among military spouses, which is around 20%. Whenever I talk about the GMSC initiative, I emphasize the word connection. With this new program, we're trying to connect spouses to either valuable information or employment opportunities.
Thank you, Rick. What a great initiative. Samantha, tell us about yourself, your family's military journey, and your professional background.
Hello, my name is Samantha Dugan, and I am currently working as your and the Program Management Career Field Team Chief here at Air Force Personnel Center, or AFPC. And so what that basically means is that I'm actually responsible for over 4,500 acquisitions program managers and helping them throughout their careers, from our most junior Palace Acquire interns all the way through our senior GS 14s and 15s. And we help them through their careers as they pursue a variety of developmental opportunities and also looking at senior positions. My primary background is actually in acquisitions program management. And been as a military spouse, I can really only claim that title officially since 2022, so pretty young military spouse. However, I did have multiple moves without a ring on my finger, so I do understand the difficulties even before becoming a military spouse of trying to find a job as a military spouse. So even before I became a military spouse officially, I did move around quite a bit. I started as a Palace Acquire intern at Hanscom Air Force Base. And then from there, I progressed to Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama, Robins Air Force Base in Georgia, Langley at Virginia, and then now here at Randolph Air Force Base in Texas. Back over to you, Sheryl.
Thank you, Samantha. You've moved quite a few times. Paul, we'd love to get to know you as well. So tell us about your family's connection to the Air Force and your own career path as a military spouse. Paul?
Hey, Ms. Sheryl, thanks. My background is with military housing dormitories under the civilian engineering umbrella, and I also have a past experience with geospatial technology. But my path here has been quite a journey. I'm actually a lifelong military dependent. My dad served proudly for 24 years, and then shortly after my wife graduated college, she commissioned into the Air Force. So when we moved to our first assignment at Elmendorf, Alaska, I had been working as a GIS director, managing the ArcGIS database for a utility company. When we got to Elmendorf, they didn't have that immediate opportunity for me, so I had to pivot. I stepped into a military housing in the civil engineering realm, managing dormitories and family housing, which opened the door to some real property and environmental work. But our most recent move was my 22nd PCS overall. So having lived across the globe, including OCONUS tours in Japan and multiple locations in Germany, I've truly seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of PCS process, which gives me a pretty unique perspective on the challenges and hurdles that our families face on a daily basis.
Well, Paul, thank you. Wow, 22 PCS. I can't imagine moving that many times. For our audience who don't know the acronym PCS, it is the permanent change of station. So it is when we say relocate, that means we're PCSing. So it's a permanent change of station. So before we go any further, let's take a second to get acquainted with you, our audience, just a little better with the first poll this evening. Poll number 1. What do you think is the biggest challenge military spouse face when pursuing a career? A, frequent permanent change of station moves. B, building a professional network in new location. C, finding positions that match their skills and experience. And D, maintaining long-term career opportunity. So we'll give you all a few minutes, a few seconds to answer the question. Take your pick and we'll give the majority of the answer. I think the majority it chose A. It is the frequent relocations can create unique career challenges. Just as military spouses are becoming established in a role, building professional networks and gaining momentum in their careers, they may be asked to relocate and start the process all over again. So tonight we'll discuss how the Global Military Spouse Connection Initiative is helping address that challenge. So thank you, audience, for participating in our first poll. So before we get into the solutions, first, I'd like you to help us understand the challenge. What are some of the biggest employment challenges military spouses face when they receive PCS orders and relocate? Rick?
Hi, Sheryl. Well, to be honest with you, I think it's knowing where they're going. If they don't have a network where they're going, basically they're starting from scratch. Their spouse has a military to rely upon. They really don't. So I think this initiative is trying to connect them ahead of time. So once they get to their spouse's duty location, they already have that employment connection or the resources to actively investigate and try to find employment professionally. Sheryl?
Thank you, Rick. What a great initiative, though, for the spouses, right? And without the global military spouse connection, what hurdles do you think they face, Rick?
Well, Cheryl, uncertainty is one of the greatest hurdles. Many active duty spouses have some sort of higher degree education, but they're unable to utilize it because they don't know what job vacancies are out there.
I agree with you, Rick. So thank you. And so we're excited that the Global Military Spouse Connection can be a great resource for the spouse to connect them with opportunities. So, Samantha, have frequent moves or military life ever affected your career plans or professional goals? And what has the experience been like personally?
So personally, what I have found to be the most difficult thing is that there's not currently a specific program to help military spouses job match. We're kind of left to our own devices in a sense. And so when we're out there looking for a position, and right now it feels like we're looking for not just the right position, but any position to try and follow our active duty spouse to their next location. So that's been one of the most difficult things that I have found is you're relying on a little bit of your networking, but I would argue a lot of luck depending on where you're going, where your spouse is going. So that's what I do like about the fact that we're starting this Global Military Spouse Connection program, that now there's this more deliberate program, more deliberate process to help us do that job matching versus relying on that luck and relying on your network. And then really just hoping that there's a position available. I find that this is especially important for career fields where there might not be like a very specific match between where the active duty member is going based on what their AFSC is or what their career field is and what the civilian spouse is. So a big example for me is I'm a program manager for acquisitions by trade. And there aren't really a lot of acquisition spaces out there. We're very limited, and they're actually limited to CONUS locations. But my husband's finance. So if you know anything about the Air Force, you know that practically every Air Force base from CONUS to OCONUS has a finance shop, which means he could basically go anywhere, but I can't. So when PCS time comes around, we actually have to kind of assess where his next assignment is going to be, but then also where he's going to go, and if where he's going, what positions are going to be there, and if I can transfer my skills accordingly, or in my case, try and maintain an acquisitions program management position. So I think that's really the hardest part about this is not just trying to find any position, but the right position, and having a more deliberate and centralized place to be able to help do that.
Right. So that can be challenging, right? So I agree with you. So, Paul, what employment challenges have you encountered as a military spouse, and how have you adapted to them over the years?
Adapt is the key word. I think whenever you're supporting an active duty spouse and move into a new installation, there's zero guarantee that your exact job or career field is going to be waiting for you when you hit the ground. So in my time coaching and mentoring other military spouses, I've seen many of them get really down and discouraged when they realize their specific occupation isn't available at the new location. But I always tell them, you have to reframe those moments as opportunities, not dead ends. When the perfect job isn't there, that's not that's kind of your cue to invest in yourself, especially when it comes to your education. I highly encourage using the downtime to focus on your academic and professional growth, whether it's finishing a degree, earning a new certification, or upskilling. Using that time to build your resume means you'll be more competitive for the next move, alongside focusing on education, volunteering, and jumping into like the local community to network. There are incredible ways to stay engaged. I've had to live that advice myself. I've stepped out of my comfort zone and done substitute teaching and youth coaching and a lot of different roles that weren't in my original career path. I've even had to downgrade to make my career work to continue my growth. So it can be incredibly frustrating, tough when your job doesn't perfectly align with your resume right away. But if you're willing to branch out and work on yourself, there's always or there's never a shortage of opportunity to grow. So back over to you, ma'am.
Right. So would you say your superpower is adaptable? So yeah, you have to learn to be adaptable, and military spouses are so resilient, and you just have to learn to pivot. Thank you, Paul. I imagine it's also challenging when you have a job with some tenure and then your spouse has a permanent change of station requiring you to leave a job you've got a successful track record with. So Paul, what do you think the answer to that is?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly tough, and I completely empathize with anyone going through it. Honestly, it can be one of the most frustrating parts of this lifestyle. The active duty member gets to PCS and carry their seniority, their rank, and their tenure with them, while a lot of times, we feel like we're forced to start completely over from ground zero in a brand new organization. Um, so yeah, it hurts to walk away from a successful track record, but we have to reframe it into a positive growth opportunity. It's just another chance to reinvent yourself, bring your incredible experiences to a brand new team, and build a network.
I agree. So I think that's why networking is so important. And we're hopeful that the Global Military Spouse Connection can be one of the resources the military spouse can use to connect them with opportunities. So thank you, Paul. Now let's talk solutions. Rick, tell us why AFCS new Global Military Spouse Connection is so promising and why now's the right time to launch it.
Sure, Cheryl. I can leave out names because this is a common story. It's a story when somebody at a certain base, say base A, is going to base B. Their spouse is highly qualified in that current job he or she was working at base A, what Paul was describing. It's not a guarantee the spouse will find a similar job at the next base, even if the same position exists. So when that person got to that base, employment resources were not available. The key takeaway is even for highly qualified spouses, there may or may not be an opportunity for them at the next location. The Global Military Spouse Connection is a Department of the Air Force DAF initiative under the umbrella of Department of War's Spouse Works program that incorporates career and educational support at every stage of a military spouse's journey. The GMSC helps to increase the probability that a DAF military spouse might find a civilian service job at the next duty location or base. I'm the only program analyst for this particular program DAF wide, and I think it's going to create opportunities for the military spouses.
Right, I agree. So we're excited because, like you said, you're the first program analyst for this new initiative. So we're excited to see what it brings. So one thing that stands out is that this program is designed specifically around PCS transitions. Can you walk us through how the process works from the moment a spouse receives a PCS order?
Sure. So right now, we narrowed it down to 3 locations where we can conduct our pilot for this initiative. We have Travis Air Force Base, which is stateside, Ramstein Air Base, which is overseas, and Patrick Space Force Base, was representing Space Force bases. Basically, it starts when the member has PCS orders going from one base to another. While they're going from one base to another, we're trying to connect them prior. Our call to action, CTA, for this is to register on our landing page so we can have all their information. We're trying to connect them to the next base, either through educational opportunities, employment resources, finding positions, or contacting a hiring manager if they have any vacancies in those positions. The key is for them is to sign up on our AF Civilian Careers website.
That's right, Rick. So thank you for bringing that up. So if you have any questions, make sure you log on to our website. Visit us at afciviliancareers.com to find more opportunities about the Global Military Spouse Connection Initiative. So the Global Military Spouse Connection Initiative talks about connecting spouses with hiring managers and career opportunities before they arrive at their new installation. Rick, how does that process differ from a traditional job search?
That's a great question, Cheryl. We do all the pre-work. We'll vet their 2-page resume, check with the base they're going to, check with careers, the CFT teams to see if there's any opportunities that we can connect them with. The key is for them to sign up on our website, like I mentioned before.
Okay, so will there be interaction between the GMSC and other spouse employment resources, such as SpouseWorks?
Yes, I just used that example, but I think in our plan, we're going to work with them in some sort of capacity.
Right, so just to clarify, right, resources like SpouseWorks provide broad employment resources, while GMSC focuses on connecting spouses more directly with hiring managers. Is that the distinction?
Yes, they provide resources. SpouseWorks is the Department of War's centralized career and educational platform that helps military spouses build career, access scholarships, receive coaching, and connect them with employers who are actively hiring military spouses. GMSC connects the Department of the Air Force active duty spouses directly with DAF hiring managers.
Correct. So military spouses are often described as resilient, adaptable, and highly educated professionals. What strengths do military spouses bring to the federal workforce and Air Force civilian service? Rick?
I think they bring so much, Cheryl. As a retired military member, I saw that my ex-wife went through so much in regard to resiliency of applying for different positions. I'd applied for a position for over 20 years because I was in the military. A lot of times, spouses are highly educated, highly motivated, highly resilient, and it shows. Every time I moved, my spouse had to try something new, had to apply for a new position, had to take classes or certifications on her own that she got feedback from another spouse. I really think there's always a plus to the mission, not just find employment, but they are to the mission.
Correct. I agree with you 100%. So, Samantha, what skills or experiences have you gained through military life that have helped you professionally?
Man, that is easy. Adaptability and flexibility, because flexibility is the key to air power, right? Probably a little bit of a dated, expression, but I think still relevant. So as a military spouse, what you bring to the table, I would argue, is your breadth of experience. Because as you're going through each of your moves, what you can do is you can take a lot of the lessons learned from one program or organization that you worked at previously. You take them into your next organization and program that you're going into, and you start seeing those connections that you can make to make improvements in your new organization. And I can attest to this, especially as a program manager, because one of the things that the career field really highly values for program management is that breadth of experience. So it's not just having that depth, that functional depth of understanding how to be a program manager, but also understanding how to apply that program management, all of your tenets, all of your policies and regulations, but how to apply them across the different programs and different organizations that we have in the Air Force. So for example, we have anything from, your physical platforms, kind of like your aircraft, your fighters and your bombers and your carrier, your tankers, all the way up through your IT weapon systems, software development programs, software development opportunities. So arguably, I think it is really that breadth of experience that you bring as a military spouse.
So much talent, right? We just have to learn to compile it all and put it all together on the resume. So thank you, Samantha. So Paul, what unique perspective do military spouses bring to the Department of the Air Force workforce?
Yes, ma'am. I always think about the symbol of the military child, which is the dandelion, right? We blow with the wind and we grow wherever we're planted. Military spouses bring that exact same resilience and flexibility, but we also bring something deeper. It's that lived experience. So I take my time working with military housing, for example. We all know that there are immense stresses that come with PCSing. When a family walks into a housing office and they're often exhausted, overwhelmed, and just trying to get settled. Having someone sitting across the desk who has lived through that exact same chaos, someone who can truly empathize and say, I get it, I've been there, that's invaluable. And that applies across almost every career path in the Department of the Air Force. When you live that lifestyle, you inherently understand how your daily job contributes to the broader mission. You bring a profound sense of compassion to the work, and in a lot of cases, a real sense of urgency, because you know exactly what is on the line for these families. And we can be uprooted from anywhere, but wherever we land, we bring immediate value simply because we understand the people that we are serving.
Correct. So far, I'm hearing two superpower military spouse have, right? Adaptability and flexibility. And I know we have so much more. So thank you, Paul. I really like the dandelion flower analogy. So I'm going to use that from now on, right? Blow with the wind. So now let's move on to the last poll of the evening. So poll number 2, audience, get ready to answer these questions. Which aspect of the Global Military Spouse Connection Initiatives interests you most? A, connecting with hiring managers. B, learning about available positions. C, maintaining career continuity during PCS moves. Or D, accessing career resources and support. We'll give you a few seconds to answer those questions, and we'll let you know what the majority answers are. Okay, I think we have a majority of the answers. So it says D, accessing career resources and support. So I hope that aligns with what everyone is looking for to connect with their global military spouse connection. So thank you, audience, for participating in our polls. Just a quick reminder for our audience, if you have any questions for any of our panelists, please put them in the Q&A, and our amazing recruiters are also behind the scene answering your questions. So for spouses watching today who may not realize they're eligible, who qualifies for the program, and what kinds of opportunities can they expect to find through GMSC? Rick?
Well, Cheryl, right now it's U.S. citizenship, active duty spouses from the pilot bases we're working with, the ability to pass a background check, have PCS orders, and meet vacancy requirements. Even with that, I want to go back to the word connection, which is powerful with this. GMSC is not guaranteeing them employment. We're going to connect them to valuable resources and career opportunities.
Right. I really like that answer, Rick, because I mean, we want to have the one-stop shop, right? Finding the resources and us being able to connect them with different career opportunities. So that's great. Thank you, Rick. Samantha, if this program had existed earlier in your military spouse journey, how might it have changed your experience during a PCS move?
So a lot less stress is what I want to say, because prior to the Global Military Spouse Connection Program, right, as a military spouse, you're really just you're almost doing a peck and find. So I remember actually sitting one of my previous PCSs. It was about Christmas time, and I'm on USA Jobs, and I am just trying to find anything on USA Jobs, which, as you know, is across the board, and you don't know who those hiring managers are. You don't have anything like that. And then because I'm also in acquisitions, right, we have a lot of what we have called direct hiring authorities. So some of those jobs are not necessarily on USA Jobs. So then I would have to not just go on USA Jobs and find anything that I could potentially be eligible for, but I'm also looking at all of these organizational job boards, because I can tell you right now, even from an acquisitions perspective, half a dozen of my organizations, just acquisitions wise, have different job boards for their opportunities. And I can imagine that all of the career fields kind of have that as well. So what I appreciate about this Global Military Spouse Connection Program is that there is this one centralized location now, and this one centralized program that is going to help us make those connections with those hiring managers across those different organizations. And I will put a plug in for our AFCS website, because I will say that as I was going through, the couple of moves that I did do, that AFCS website was so good, because it was like the first time that I had the one centralized location for all of our Air Force jobs, which no offense to the other services, but I do want to stay Air Force. And so that's kind of what I feel is really valuable, is to have that one place that I can go to.
Right. So I can really, I agree with you. Our website is full of resources, right? So audience, if you haven't visited our website, afciviliancareers.com, please visit. We have a lot of resources, information about career opportunities, your resume tips. So a lot of information there. So thank you, Samantha. Paul, what excites you most about a program like GMSC becoming available to military spouses across the Department of the Air Force?
Yes, ma'am. I always call it the connective tissue. I think that's what's exciting. I look back at my 22 moves, not just for myself, but like my mom, when she was trying to find career continuity, it often felt like you had 1,000 pieces of the puzzle on the table, and not the box to go off of and see the picture. So you'd have to check 10 different websites, or back in the day, even job boards, or talk to 5 different offices, and just hope you stumbled into the right place at the right time. GMSC changes that entirely. It acts as that connective tissue that brings all those scattered pieces into one clear picture. PCSing is chaotic enough on its own. So for me, having a dedicated one-stop shop to navigate your career takes an enormous weight off of our shoulders. Knowing that spouses now have this centralized resource to alleviate those specific stress, I think is incredibly exciting for me.
Yeah, I really agree with having a one-stop shop. So you're not having, like you said, having to go to 10 to 20 different websites. So it's all centralized location. So thank you, Paul. Beyond helping spouses find jobs, how does supporting military spouse employment strengthen military families, readiness, and ultimately the Air Force mission? Rick?
Well, Cheryl, I think it hits a lot of different avenues. First, it increases the potential to help reduce financial burdens. Secondly, it contributes directly to the DAF mission. And lastly, increasing the male spouse career portfolio has the potential to satisfy professional goals, develop a positive outlook, and create a sense of partnership with their active duty spouse. Employment isn't just about a second income, it's a critical lifeline for military families. By building a portable career, spouses reduce financial stress and create a strong foundation of stability at home, Cheryl.
Wow, wow. Thank you, Rick. That's a great information. This connects the conversation back to the broader mission and gives leadership, recruiters, and spouses a powerful reminder that military spouse employment is not just a workforce issue, it's a readiness issue. So, Samantha, what advice would you give another military spouse who may be hesitant to pursue a federal career because they're worried about the future move?
Learn to love the adventure. It's because it is definitely an adventure. So you're going to run into this uncertainty every 2 to 3 years, right? Depending on your career field and your spouse's career field, that determines on if they're going to have a 2-year tour or 3-year tour. So just learn to love the adventure and live within that adventure, because at the end of the day, it really is a great adventure to be on. But the other thing I'll offer is that once you become a civil servant and once you get a job in civil service, you actually get to support 2 missions, which I think is kind of awesome. You get to support not just your at-home mission, supporting your active duty member, but now, Simon Sinek, he's this leadership guru that talks about knowing your why. Now you get to have this other really cool why, which is supporting your Air Force mission as well, depending on what program you're in or where you are. So that's what I would say, is that learn to love the adventure, learn to love your mission, both of them, both supporting your active duty spouse and the mission, the operational mission you're going to be supporting. So really just hold on tight, learn to look out the window, and then just learn to love it.
I love it. Learn to love the adventure. So I hope you all are listening to that. I love that, Samantha. Paul, what would you say to military spouses who may underestimate the value of their education, experience, and skills?
Yes, ma'am. I've run across a lot of them that have a lot of experience, education, and skills. And I think my biggest message to them, to the spouses, is stop looking at your resume gaps as weakness and start seeing them as your superpower. We do move around a lot, and there happens to be gaps, but because we move around so often, we tend to think my resume is too patchy or I don't have a traditional career path. But the truth is, the civilian workforce desperately needs what you have. Your ability to walk into a brand new environment, adapt instantly, and solve problems under stress is a high value skill set that you can't teach in a classroom. So don't let the fear of the unknown keep you from applying, and don't be afraid to jump into a completely new swim lane. Back when I started, we only had USA jobs, and it was easy to feel like there was nothing out there for us. Today, we have an amazing tailored platforms, just like AFCiviliancareers.com, that are actively looking for the exact adaptability that you bring to the table. You're more than qualified than you think, so take the leap.
Yep, I love it. So I think it's safe to say that military spouses are expert at pivoting, right? So we're adaptable, we learn to pivot, and we're learning to love the journey, as Samantha had mentioned. Thank you, Paul. If there's one thing you want every military spouse watching today to remember about the Global Military Spouse Connection, what would it be, Rick?
Well, Cheryl, professionally, I just want to let them know they're not alone. They do have the connection piece out there. Just in this short amount of time that we established this initiative, I have been so passionate and kind of emotional in regard to helping out military spouses and truly understanding their struggles. They have somebody to connect with both professionally and mission related. So the connection portion, Cheryl.
Yep, love that, connecting and connecting the military spouses to the resources that we have available out there. So thank you, Rick. Lightning round. What does career continuity mean to you, Paul?
Yes, ma'am. For me, career continuity is huge. but my 22 moves have taught me it's definitely not a straight, neatly paved highway. It's a bit of an off-road adventure. A lot of people think that there is a rigid, defined path to upward mobility, but my own resume proves that that's just not true for us. To me, continuity isn't about holding the exact same job title at every single base that we get transferred to. It's about taking your skills from the last stop, putting yourself in the right place at the right time, and never being scared to say yes when the next unexpected opportunity appears.
Love it. Samantha, same question.
I'll keep it short and simple, very much like Paul. It is really just I'm trying to keep my job and not just my same job, but I'm trying to find the right job for me, but at that particular location that we're ending up in. So that's what career continuity is for me, is trying to just find that job and looking at it from the perspective of I love Paul's our superpower, right? Where we have it's not about, you know, our resume being patchy or you know, having too many things there. Really, every job that you take, every job that you get as you go through this military spouse journey, everything is a resume builder. So that's what I find is career continuity.
I love it. Resume builder, right? All the experiences that we have, you just like you all have mentioned, we're learning how to pivot. So Rick, where should eligible spouses go to learn more, connect with the program, and then take that first step toward joining Air Force Civilian Service?
Our awesome website, Cheryl. I know I sound like a broken record. You know, Paul and Miss Samantha has been saying this. I champion our Air Force Civilian Service website as often as I can because it's full of resources. AFCiviliancareers.com will have a dedicated page for the entire GMSC initiative, or you can jump straight to the GMSC landing page at afciviliancareers.com/military-spouses. The GMSC landing page is fully functional as a repository for all your information. You'll be able to enter your detailed information and customize your searches around your interests and input.
Right, full of resources. Again, we keep mentioning our website, but ladies and gentlemen, really, our website has got a lot of information on there. So if you've not visited it, please do so tonight, tomorrow. But it has a lot of information in that. So as a military spouse, what challenges did you face in pursuing your career through military moves and life transitions, and how did you navigate those obstacles? Samantha?
Oh, I think the biggest challenge is that right now, before this program, it really was a lot of luck of the draw and a lot of hope, right? You better hope that you are in the right place at the position, you know, showed up at the right place for the right time. In comparison to Paul, like I said, I'm a very young military spouse, so I have not been through 22 moves, which kudos to Paul for going through 22 moves. So I'm definitely not the expert on this. I think, like we discussed before, the biggest challenge was not having the centralized location. So you'd have to rely a little bit on your network, on who you knew, who might knew someone at that location. But also there's this other concept too. You have military spouses have another option, right? And we have an exemption for remote work. We can work remotely, but that's also a little bit of hope that your organization that you're currently in, you know, can support remote work. And I can tell you from like an acquisitions program management perspective, oftentimes a lot of the organizations we work in, you know, potentially secret or even top secret environments, so remote work is not an option. So that's been I think one of the challenges is really just trying to find the position, applying through the various job boards, and then dealing with how disconnected a lot of these, you know, findings of these opportunities are. You know, other than going through AFCS, which was again, when that website was built, that was like this phenomenal resource that came into my life a couple of years ago. But that's been one of the biggest challenges, is the disconnected resources that we would have to go through. So really now with the Global Military Spouse Connection Program, you have a one centralized place, and you're submitting your resume to one place versus a half a dozen positions of wherever you might end up.
Correct. So thanks for that mention, Samantha, because you're right. You want to have a centralized location or a place to put your resume or to find the resources, right? So Thank you. Paul, many spouses have skills and experience that may not fit a traditional career path due to frequent relocations. How were you able to communicate your value and find opportunities within the Air Force civilian workforce?
All right, Michelle, I'm gonna sound like a broken record a little bit on this one, but a lot of people view a non-traditional career path as a negative or a hurdle. I made a conscious decision early on to flip that script. I didn't see obstacles. I saw a chance to deeply diversify my resume. We don't always get to choose our geographic location. We go where the Air Force sends us, but we do get to choose how we frame our experiences. But here is a secret to actually communicating that value. And you can't do that in a vacuum. I leaned heavily on networking. I deliberately sought out mentors and peers who had walked this road less traveled, if you will, before me. Um, you know, they were the ones who helped me figure out, how to translate my diverse experience into a cohesive, high value story. They also made sure I was plugged into the right resources, like the career field teams, which are an absolute goldmine for finding exactly where you fit into the civilian workforce. So for me, it's always been about asking, what's the next opportunity? How do I make myself better, not just for me, but for my family? And I think when you combine the right mindset with a strong network and that connective tissue, these career programs, those non-traditional paths become, your biggest advantage.
Correct. So thanks for that, Paul, because I can't emphasize enough how important networking is because if you don't have a network, it's really hard to find what's out there. You find information from talking to people. So thanks, Paul. Well, Rick, Samantha, and Paul, thank you for sharing your experiences, insights, and perspective with us this evening. One thing that stands out from tonight's discussion is that military spouses bring extraordinary talent, resilience, and dedication to everything they do. They support their families, support the mission, and continually adapt to the challenges that come with military life. As we've heard tonight, those challenges can sometimes make it difficult to maintain a career from one permanent change of station to the next. But we've also learned that the Department of the Air Force recognizes the value military spouses bring to the workforce and is committed to helping them continue building meaningful careers through initiatives like the Global Military Spouse Connection. Whether you're a military spouse looking for your next opportunity, a hiring manager looking to connect with exceptional talent, or simply someone interested in learning more about Air Force civilian service, we encourage you to explore the resources available at afciviliancareers.com, or for more specifically, afciviliancareers.com/military spouses. There, you can learn more about the Global Military Spouse Connection Initiative, explore current opportunities, and discover how Air Force Civilian Service is helping military spouses stay connected to rewarding careers while continuing to support the mission. And don't forget to keep an eye out for our next episode of Aim Higher. We'll have another exciting career field, another group of outstanding guests, and another opportunity to learn more about the AFCS in many ways civilians contribute to the Department of the Air Force mission. Thank you for joining us this evening. We appreciate your time, your questions, and your interest in the Air Force civilian service. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time on Aim Higher.